All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are talking about one of the biggest, fastest moving things in finance right now, stablecoins. And look, you can forget everything you think you know about crypto, because this is something different. This is a technology that is literally about to change how money works for everyone, everywhere. So let me just start with this question. What if money could move at the speed of the internet? I mean, think about it, 24/7, almost instantly, and for pennies. Well, that's not some far-off dream. That is the core promise of stablecoins, and it's happening right now. Okay, so what is a stablecoin, really? Super simple. It's a digital coin that's built to not be volatile. Unlike Bitcoin or other cryptos that are all over the place. The big ones are pegged one-to-one with the US dollar. They're backed by actual real-world assets. So you can think of them as a bridge. They give you the speed and efficiency of the blockchain, but with the stability of old-school money. And the scale we're talking about here, it's just mind-blowing. We're looking at $9 trillion in real user payments in 2025 alone. To give you some context, that is more than 5 times what PayPal does. It's over half of Visa's entire volume. So yeah, this isn't some niche crypto thing anymore. This is a massive global force. So we're on to the new rules of the game. You see, when you grow that fast, that big, well, you can bet the people in charge start paying attention. And that's exactly what happened. When a piece of tech goes from being a weird fringe experiment to, a core part of the financial system, it's time to lay down the law. So in the US, this led to the Genius Act. And yes, that's actually what it's called. It became law in 2025 and basically created a clear rule book. And the main thing here is the guardrails they put up. They're pretty strict. Issuers now have to back every single digital dollar with a real dollar in things like cash or US government bonds. They have to get audited all the time, and they need a license. This brought a ton of legitimacy to the space, but it also meant they had to get serious fast. And hey, this wasn't just happening in the US. Over in the EU, they rolled out their own big set of rules called MiCA. And this is where things get really interesting, because we see 2 different philosophies at play. The US basically said, let the private companies do it, but we'll regulate them heavily. And they even banned the idea of a government-run digital dollar. The UE, on the other hand, is doing both. They're regulating private companies, but they're also building their own digital euro. So it's 2 totally different paths to the same destination, making sure this stuff is stable and under control. Okay, so now for the twist. Something really fascinating and maybe even totally unintended came out of all these new rules. By making all these companies back their stablecoins with safe US assets, the regulators kind of accidentally created this massive new engine for American financial power. An accidental empire, you could say. And the numbers? Wow, get this. By the middle of 2025, just 2 companies, Tether and Circle, held a combined $177.6 billion in US government debt. Let that sink in. These 2 private companies now own more US debt than a lot of actual countries. It's wild. This quote from PineBridge Investments just nails it. Rather than challenging the dominance of the US dollar, stablecoins are likely to reinforce it. How's that for a plot twist? The very tech that was supposed to be the dollar's biggest rival has, in a weird way, become one of its biggest allies. So you're probably wondering, how does this even work? Well, it's a few things. First, all this buying of US debt makes it cheaper for the US government to borrow money. That's a huge deal. Second, it means there's always a big, hungry buyer for US debt, which helps keep the markets stable. But here's the real kicker. When people all over the world, especially in countries with shaky economics, start using these dollar-backed stablecoins, they're essentially using a digital version of the US dollar. It extends America's financial power across the globe, and the government doesn't have to lift a finger. All right, so that's the big picture. We've got this massive influence, new rules, but who's actually running the show? Let's take a look at the stablecoin market today. And what you see right away is that this market is, well, it's not very crowded at the top. The data from late 2025 is pretty clear. Tether, that's USDT, is the big kahuna, with over 60% of the market. Circle's USDC is a solid number 2, but then everyone else? They're just fighting for the scraps. It's a game of giants, for sure. But here's the thing, size isn't everything. While Tether's the biggest in terms of market cap, Circle's USDC actually moved more money in 2025. And that tells you they play different games.
Think of USDT as the lifeblood of crypto trading and the go-to in emerging markets. USDC, on the other hand, is the buttoned-up choice for big institutions and corporate payments. And then you've got the new kids on the block, like Athena's USDE, which is all about finding clever ways to earn a return in the DeFi space.
The big takeaway here, all those regulations, they were like a giant green light. They gave the big players the confidence they needed. And suddenly, all the institutions that were just watching from the sidelines, we're talking banks, huge corporations, even governments, they decided it was time to jump in the game. And here's a perfect example of what that looks like in the real world. In early 2026, the state of Wyoming, launched its own stablecoin, the Frontier Stable token. It's the first of its kind in the US, it's backed by dollars and treasuries, and it's designed to make payments for its own citizens and businesses way cheaper and faster. A state government is now in the stablecoin business. Things are getting real.
And you can bet the traditional banks aren't just sitting around watching this happen. They are moving in, and they're moving fast. We're seeing some launch their own stablecoins. A lot of others are just partnering up with the big players like Circle to get in on the action. And pretty much all of them are scrambling to upgrade their old systems to handle this new world of digital money. They know they can't ignore it anymore.
Okay, so let's just recap for a second. We've got insane scale, we've got global rules, and we've got the big money players all jumping in. Which brings us to the ultimate question, right? What does all this mean for the future of money? When we look into the crystal ball for 2026 and beyond, there are really three ways this could go. Scenario one is fragmentation. You get a digital euro, a digital yen, and they all kind of create their own little ecosystems. Scenario two is consolidation. The big dollar-based players we've been talking about, Tether and Circle, they just get bigger and bigger, totally dominating the space. And then there's scenario three, integration. This is where stablecoins become invisible. They're just the plumbing, the basic rails that everything else in finance runs on top of.
And that really brings us right back to where we started. We know they're powerful now, but are stablecoins the future of money? I mean, will this be the main way you pay for things, save your money, or even invest in a few years? I'm actually really curious to hear what you think about all this. Is this really the start of a whole new chapter for finance, or is it just the next logical step? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. And hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button for more deep dives just like this. Thanks for hanging out.